Let me tell you something that still makes me laugh. Every morning, I sit out on my porch and watch the sun come up over what used to be my family's wheat fields. Now it's a damn shopping mall, and it's got my name on the deed. If you're thinking that sounds crazy, well, buckle up, because you're not the only one who thought so. Let me back up a sec. You ever come home after months away expecting the same old peaceful dirt road and instead find a $12 million mall eating up your land like a swarm of steel locusts? Yeah, that happened. I hadn't even killed the engine when I saw the bulldozers, the banners screaming, Willow Point Plaza, coming soon, and a construction crew tearing up every bit of history my granddad ever worked for. I'm not ashamed to say my hands shook on the wheel, felt like someone reached down my throat and stole my voice for a minute. I get out boots sinking in the churned up mud that used to be the south field, and I walk straight up to the foreman clipboard and all. Can I help you, sir? He asks. Just doing his job, probably. Yeah, I say you're standing on my land. You ever see a man's face go from polite to confused in under a second? He asks if I'm the owner of parcel, whatever. I nod, and he just points me toward a bunch of fancy trailers, temporary HOA offices looking more like command centers. And the whole time I'm thinking, what kind of universe did I stumble into while I was gone? Inside, I find Karen Monroe herself. Perfect hair, too stiff blazer, that little smile that makes you want to check your pockets. She looks up from her paperwork, all sweet and syrupy. Well, you're back early, aren't you? I don't waste time. Why is there a mall on my property? She doesn't blink. There was confusion about ownership, she says, waving a pile of contracts and permits under my nose, none of them signed by me or anyone in my family. You can file a grievance, she chirps, but let's not make this harder than it needs to be. It's progress. You know, I swear, if looks could knock someone through a window, she'd have been flying. So I go back home, if you can call it that anymore. The mailbox ripped up the old barn. Just a memory, the place looking like a crime scene from a bad movie. That night I'm tearing through every drawer, every box my granddad ever stashed in the attic, and I find the old deed, the land grant notarized, transfers, no mention of any sale, no sign-off to anyone, least of all the HOA. I pile it all up and head straight to the county office in the morning, slam it on the counter, and old Mike behind the desk, bless him, goes pale as a ghost. These are originals, he says. Where did you get all this? Always had it, I tell him, and his fingers start dancing across the computer. That's weird. He mumbles the zonings based on a digital copy, not these documents. He tells me if I can prove I never sold or abandoned it, and if the HOA never had jurisdiction, this whole build is illegal as a $3 bill. Let me tell you, I didn't sleep that night, anger and adrenaline like wildfire in my chest. Next morning, I start talking to neighbors, especially old-timers, who keep to themselves. Turns out the HOA's been slick pressured folks into signing petitions for a dog park that turned out to be my wheat field. One lady, Mrs. Kim, down the lane, looks at her shoes and says, "I'm sorry, I had no idea. I tell her it's not her fault." The more I dig, the uglier it gets. Now here's the twist. Not many people know this, but my college buddy Marcus is a real estate attorney, sharp as a tack. I drive 3 towns over, drop the paperwork on his kitchen table, and watch his eyebrows climb higher with every page. Then he stops at this one yellow document. "You see this?" he says, tracing his finger down a faded line. "Any structure built without your written consent belongs to you, period. That's right, if the mall gets finished, it's mine, every brick, every pipe." Let them finish. Marcus grins. They're building you a gold mine. That's the moment the whole thing flipped in my head. Like, wait, I don't have to fight them. I just have to wait. So that's exactly what I did. For 2 months, I became the world's friendliest, most unbothered landowner. I went to HOA meetings, nodded along, didn't argue, paid my dues, kept my mouth shut. Karen strutted around thinking she'd won, waving press releases and smiling for cameras. They poured millions into that place, plumbers, electricians, landscapers, you name it. Meanwhile, I'm flying my drone, snapping photos, keeping receipts, watching them hang themselves with their own rope. I even had some fun dropped off donuts at the worksite, chatted up. The foreman told him I used to farm here. He laughs. Well, at least you're not like that other guy who keeps calling the county. I say, hope the paperwork's all good, right? He just shrugs, says HOA told him not to worry. You gotta love that confidence. But underneath it all, things were getting nasty. HOA fees skyrocketed. People got fined for everything. George and Linda Bishop, this sweet retired couple, got pushed out of their house for a so-called garage violation. They'd lived there since the 80s. HOA was using everyone's dues to bankroll this monument to their own stupidity, and nobody could stop them, or so they thought. By the grand opening, the mall looked like something out of a city magazine. Banners everywhere, local news showed up, even the mayor came out to cut the ribbon. I showed up too, boot-shine papers in hand, ready to ruin a few days. I waited until Karen got that spotlight, made her little speech about community progress, and then I stepped up. I'd like to address something, I said, loud enough for the cameras to turn. This mall sits on private land, my land. I never sold, never signed, never gave up an inch. Karen tries to cut me off, but I hold up the deed, highlighted, notarized, ironclad, and I read that covenant for the whole room to hear. Any structure built without consent is the property of the deed holder. You could feel the shock ripple through the crowd. I dropped another bomb. I'd already gotten an offer from a real estate group. More money than the HOA had spent on the whole project, and I wasn't bluffing. You built me a mall, I said, and now it's mine, lock, stock, and barrel. Karen's face, man, I'll never forget it. She went from queen of the HOA to deer in headlights in under 5 seconds. The fallout was epic. Local news ran the story, mall built on private land, HOA faces. Legal bombshell, people lost their minds. The board turned on, Karen booted her out. Neighbors started talking lawsuits. Everyone suddenly remembered my name. The buyer wired the cash. The mall was renamed Miller Commons, and my family's land was not only safe, it was worth more than I ever dreamed. Last I saw Karen, she was driving out of the neighborhood in a beat-up sedan, sunglasses covering half her face, pride packed in the trunk. The new HOA board sticks to barbecues and lawn disputes now, no more empires. And me, I just sit on the porch with my coffee thinking about how sometimes the best revenge is letting arrogant people dig their own hole and then handing them the shovel. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. If your HOA or your boss or anyone ever tries to pull a fast one, don't just fight. Be patient, keep your receipts, and let them build you a palace. Now, I gotta ask, what would you have done? Ever seen someone's greed flip right back on them? Let me know in the comments. Let's hear your stories. What does real justice look like to you? Because out here, it's not just about land, it's about standing your ground even when everyone else thinks you're beat.